Kelley, Gamers' List from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here for the most wonderful time of the year. It's time to talk about the People's Choice Top 200 solo games, and with me, I have a fantastic panel of highly solo game experienced gentlemen, if you can be so called. Let's just have some quick introductions. So, Mike, why don't you go first? You're a pretty regular person around here.
Hey, I'm Mike Kelley from the One Stop Co-op Shop. Thanks for inviting me, Liz.
Jeremy.
My name is Jeremy. I am just a black man doing all I can from parts unknown. From parts unknown. No, I work with Man versus Meeple. So if you check out solo gaming there, it's me.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, I'm Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules, and Jeremy said that if I don't come on the show, he'll keep sending me those emails. So here I am.
Very well. Hey, you know what? But we got to get you on here by hook or by crook.
Yep.
All right. So this is the first of 3 videos. So for those of you who are watching, we are going to cover 101 to 200 on the People's Choice Top 200 list in this video. And then we'll have 2 more videos to cover the top 100. So we are just going to have a chat about what's on this list. Of course, we have seen all of the list early. It's like the most...
It's the biggest list I've ever seen, with more stats than I would. Yeah, I mean, I'm scrolling right and seeing all of these columns, and there's huge amount of stats. But thank you very much for putting this list together. That's Kevin, isn't it, who's done the list?
Kevin Erskine. So yes, this is the perfect moment to give a shout out. Kevin Erskine, you're the bomb.com. We love you. And you do an amazing public service for all of us every year. And everybody, this video will link to the list that Kevin has kindly put together. But we are looking at a spreadsheet that has like 1,500 games on it and data about votes and rankings over the past couple of years. And it is just really interesting. So did anything jump out at y'all over the kind of bottom half of this list, that 100 200, that 101 to 200?
Well, could Liz, can we talk a bit about the games we were sad did not make the top 200 first before we get into the actual
I think
things?
We absolutely should.
So I'll call that one first. I mean, it's pretty new, but it jumped up 50 spaces this year. But any of you guys played Unsettled, which is at the 293 spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like maybe my top game of this year that I've played, or among like my top 3 or 4. And I think it's especially great solo because while there's a lot of cooperation between the characters, it's kind of like a big tactical puzzle, like with interlocking actions. So I think the solo play is really great. And then Liz, I know you'll be with me on this. I'm always sad to see a lot of big war games down lower than I think they might be. And I think if I'm right, unless I missed one, none of the coin games, which I really love, are in the top 200. Like Gandhi's 250. I think Fire in the Lake might be the highest one. But yeah, I want, and like Field Commander, Napoleon, that's one that I really liked from DVG. And yeah, I think the heavier war games just seem to have a hard time breaking into the top.
Yeah, it's breaking my heart. Like Labyrinth of War on Terror dropped 20 spots this year, and it's now out of the top 200 as well. And you know, I love all these like really chunky games. I also, you know, okay, like I know that the Nations solo mode isn't necessarily great compared to current ones, but I do have a really soft spot for Nations as well. So I'm like kind of sad to see something that used to be like a solo list staple fall down so far. City of Kings is now below 200. Unbroken, but you know,
well, that's always got the baggage going around with it.
The baggage,
little baggage.
And then Jeremy, I think you and I were sad about one of the same games on here. Didn't make the cut.
Well,
no, not that one. That's you.
Liz is like, not that one.
I'll tell you, one of the big one for the biggest. Those are the 2 biggest for me is Folklore. Folklore is such a great classic gothic horror kind of dungeon crawl. But it also has like old school rules type stuff. There's nothing like particularly innovative about it. It's really trying to do, you know, just straight up dice combat, chuck it, you know, pull stats and move on. But they added this new system, Fall of the Spire, which was kind of like their last innovation of the system. And by that time, people are either on or off board with it. So I totally understand if they don't get it. But like the last expansion to that is the best writing, the best version of that combat system. Amazing game. And to not have Solomon Kane on here is a freaking crime. You got to be kidding me. It's one of the most thematic experiences ever. You know what? Just because you can't afford it. Huh?
I mean, to be fair, Jeremy, I'm looking.
It's a mess. It is a mess. I
it's
know.
at 360, but it was at like 600 the year before, so it did make a big climb. It's not
it did make a big climb. By the way, if you're looking for something that's obscure and not so cool and super hot, there is a great campaign game, futuristic kind of style. It's called Hunters AD 2114. It's clunky. Don't worry. If you get through it, you're going to love it. You're going to love that game. So yeah, I saw it on the list in the 300s and I was just like, I'm surprised, because everybody who backed it and got their hands on it loves it. But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't have that pulse like everything else does. It's such a great game, and there's a lot of content in that base box.
I'm also just sad about V Commandos not being top 200.
V Commandos is weird. That's just weird that it's not on there. I was surprised. Very surprised.
I mean, it went up like 80 or 140 spots.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's also, there was the name change because now it's like V Sabotage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think the Kickstarter is just delivering or delivered like in the last like month or so. So I don't know. I could see it doing a lot better, maybe being back in the top 200 soon.
The best Aeon's End Legacy is not on there.
What? The best? Get out of here,
what
man.
Are you talking about,
Get out of
Jamie?
here.
Well,
the worst. The worst.
Here's the deal. It's the best for everyone who is playing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally the best one to say, hey, if you were giving a suggestion to people, you would probably suggest that one. And it's a lot of people's full exposure because I think it's the highest selling one.
Yeah.
So I'm just surprised. Like
I always recommend Aeon's End Legacy as the first game that you should get if you're getting into Aeon's End, because unlike a lot of other legacy games, which are like, right, here's the game, and we're actually going to build on it with more and more stuff. Aeon's End does it the other way around. You know, you start off with nothing, and where you end up with at the end of a game of Aeon's End Legacy is the Aeon's End game.
Yes.
So it introduces all of those rules gradually to you. So it's the perfect introduction to the system, and the story's good and the game's good. So
Arena of the Contest is not up there. Oh my gosh! All right, Chronicles of Juniger is not on there.
I mean that the new Kickstarter is still pretty far from delivering. I think that's hurting it.
Oh no, just the Chronicles of Juniger. It might be on the list, but this one is Age of Darkness. So I think the Age of Darkness is a newer one. So.
All right. So looking in that 101 to 200, what are y'all seeing that you are happy to see? Things you're surprised you're still hanging on. Things you're surprised they've fallen so far. Where are we at? What are y'all seeing? I am personally sad to see D-Day Dice fallen so far, just because D-Day Dice is great. And
D-Day Dice is great. I missed that game. I haven't played it in a long time.
I love it. And let's see. It's right there at 199. We've got Conflict of Heroes, Awakening the Bear. That is a fantastic solo game. The AI is amazing.
Really, really good things about the solo mode for that game.
I mean, I would disagree. I think it's a mediocre solo mode, and I would much rather play something that's made for solo, like a David Thompson, like Pavlov's House or something. But I think it's fine.
No, I had to go pew with my tanks.
I'm excited. I have some DVG love coming some way. I'm going to try some of these games for the first time. You guys have been barking about.
Oh, so shoot, man, that's great.
I'm delving into the genre. We'll see how this goes. Results may vary. But yeah, I'm really excited about some of these David Thompson titles. So I decided to take that plunge.
One I'm happy about. I've been just like Jeremy's diving into DVG. I'm diving into Button Shy games more.
Oh,
and
dude.
Let's see. I think Skulls of Sedlec I played for the first time this year, and that went up 169 spots to 172. That's a quick. The solo modes. Actually, I kind of like the solo mode better than the multiplayer in that one. I think
pretty much.
Yeah. And then I think, hold on, I don't want to misspeak and say a game that's higher.
Do you have Spaceship?
I don't have Spaceship.
You have to have Spaceship.
I have to have it.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Yes, this is also in the 100 200s. One of my favorite games this year is Rove, which is at 112. That's the first time it's on the list, and it's already at 112. So that that shows.
That just shows you how good it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like that game. Anybody who likes Bullets, which I know we'll be talking about later, which is one of my favorites. Rove has kind of that similar, like really tight action economy, like spatially moving things to make patterns in a really fun way.
Yeah, that's a must-have too. They've gotten a roster in the last year or so that are just so good solo, and it's like, I mean, every time they have a Kickstarter, I'm like, you should just get these 5.
Yeah, because that fishing game recently was good. Of
That
course,
one
like all their Opolises are fun.
Yeah. So
Indeed.
We were talking
Paul.
just before the stream started about Resist, and it is on the list. It's 125 straight in at number 125.
That
Now,
is
I've not
a
had a chance to play
fabulous-
this yet, but
Oh,
you've
you
played
haven't?
it. Yeah.
I love Resist. That's another one that's I've been putting together my top like 20 of 2022, and that's pretty high up there.
Yeah. So I'm glad to see that in there. And that's only going to go higher, I think, as more and more people get it and start playing it.
So I'm going to take you all the way back to 2012, 13, I think, was before I was gaming, before I was even born as a gamer, as a modern gamer, I should say. Snowdonia is still on here, going
Still
strong, baby, going strong. You know, if you find that master box,
It's a little engine that could.
folks, if you find that master box, you have enough solo content to keep you, especially if you love the design. If you're like, man, this is actually really fun.
Yeah.
You've got a good 20 some scenarios, and honestly, probably more, 20, 30, depending on how you just mix up stuff, that you could keep playing. And I mean, what a great design to me. And they get real silly. So if you want something like the kind of, because it is a very dry themed game, it is themed. You do play the thematic experience, but it's dry. It's very dry. But like you add these things in here. I mean, like escorting goats off the mountain, you know, like just all silly kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely check that part out. Check that game out. That was a big surprise to me to still see on there. I'm very excited.
And there's going to be more Snowdonia content. Naylor Games in the UK have made an agreement with Terry Boydell that there's going to be some more Snowdonia stuff. Just when you thought it was all over with the master set, with everything in, there's going to be more.
I'm liking to see like Coffee Roaster still on there.
Ghost Stories and Gears of War are still hanging on in that top 200.
When Gears of War is so out of print and so expensive to get a copy, generally,
I have a copy of Gears of War up there, and one of these days I will actually get around to trying it because I've heard it's actually quite good for a game that kind of wasn't popular.
Oh no, it's very good. It's very punishing. I tend to like another one that's hard to find, Fireteam Zero. I like better for a very similar game, but they're both good. You know what? So what strikes me about the list in general, at least like I just picked like some random groups of 10 and looked through each of them. Like looking at 101 to 110 as an example, which just to read them out is Horrified, Palm Island, Imperial Assault, Elder Sign, After the Virus, Barrage, Pavlov's House, Leaving Earth, Hexplore It, and Apex Theropod. I feel like in past years, Euros have been stronger on the list. And I feel like just looking at that sampling, for example, and kind of looking at the list in general, maybe more thematic games or like hybrid games tend to be doing better this year, which certainly matches my taste. You all know I'm probably, actually, I think I'm easily the least enamored with Euro solo games. I tend to play like Euros as competitive games. Out of the four of us, I think I'm probably the least in favor of that. So yeah, I'm happy. You know.
Yeah, I feel you. I like a good mix. So I'm kind of in the mixed thing because I like very heavy narrative games, but then I also like games where I'm just like, all right, moving bits, playing the numbers, you know, that kind of thing like that. The big two that are right next to each other, After the Virus and Barrage are like perfect examples of that. Like, I mean,
they're very similar weights and types of games.
Yeah, they're very similar weights. You play Barrage. Yeah,
I can probably play a game of After the Virus while I wait for my turn in Barrage.
Right, while you wait for your turn.
That's why they're a perfect pair.
They're a perfect pair. They belong right hand in hand. You can have a conversation and play the game, you know, online. But it's really cool to see that difference. And by the way, if you want a nice little small game that you can play, is After Virus is a really great suggestion, and it was like $20. I remember the last time I got it for $17 back in the day. Yeah. And you can buy it right off Amazon. Give that one a go. It's hard, but it's engaging and stuff like that. I like that. But
yeah, I totally agree.
But Barrage is just fantastic design. It is a brutal game on its own as far as a multiplayer game, but solo wise, it is one of the most head scratching, every choice matters type game there is, and it is worth all your time.
There's one game that I'm surprised to see in the list, and it is in the top 100, and this is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Now, this was in the top 200 last year, but as a solo game, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at the games that are below Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and I'm seeing some games in there that have great solo modes and work really well solo. And then I'm seeing Pandemic Legacy Season 1 above it. I don't know, maybe people play it solo, but I find it very difficult to rate a game like Pandemic Legacy or even Pandemic as a solo game, because I don't think I'd ever play it solo.
Well, I think, and this is kind of a bigger discussion for the list in general, but we can just have it right now for this video of the list since it's the first one.
To be revisited.
Yeah, but I think a ton of people, and I would do this sometimes too, a ton of people will be like, I love this game and I played it once solo, or I love this game and it happens to be able to be played solo, so I'm going to rank it very high.
Right.
I'm with you. I think Pandemic, I hear a lot of people saying Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is one of their top games of all time. I don't think I know any of those people who played it solo. There's nothing stopping you from playing it solo, I guess, except for spoiler, maybe betrayal things at some point. But even that is like a very minor thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think people are just like, hey, I love Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I've never played it solo before, but I'm going to put it on this list.
I'm good. Yeah.
And I also feel like that's another thing with me. I don't consider games that can be played solo because someone made a fan variant.
I don't either.
Like, that's not solo. Like, when people say it's soloable, I'm like, wait, is it has a solo mode in it? No, it doesn't. So it's not, like, I don't want it on a solo list. It doesn't have the one on the box, or if it's not cooperative, like that kind of thing. And I know that some people don't look at it that way. So hopefully that's not the case here, because that's what I think of when I'm thinking of here, and I worry about that. I just thought about that.
Yeah, I actually have that same personal preference. It's not that I won't play a homebrew solo mode. It's that I don't really review them, or really like when people look at this game list, right? They're looking for things they can go get to try.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's extra barriers to like, okay, but you get the game and then you have to get this, and this for it to work good. And it's an amazing solo. Like, right. I'm never gonna recommend that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, as somebody who designs tons of unofficial solo modes, here, I was looking just to name a few. Tyrants of the Underdark is at position 536. I would guess that's my solo mode, because that's certainly the only one I've ever seen discussed by anybody. Radlands, these are both great games, by the way. Radlands is at 592. Again, I think my solo mode is the only one that I see like any major discussion around. And both of those, like I design solo variants that need generally no extra materials. Like, you don't need to print like a 50 card deck to make it work or anything.
Right.
So I don't know. I personally, like, in my top of the year list, like I'll include games that I made a solo mode for because I want to play those games more than anything else, because it's not that big of a barrier to entry to play them. But I totally hear you. I'm not saying like you shouldn't hold the opinion you have, but I think especially when a solo variant is like clean and really well done. Like Paul was just talking about the solo variant for the Conan and Batman Gotham City Chronicles games. Like, I think good solo modes are good solo modes regardless. And let's be frank, a lot of the official solo modes that got put on the box that are in the rule book are terrible or aren't explained well or are worse than what fans can create sometimes.
Absolutely.
That's true.
So, I think quality is quality. Like I see like the delineation between official and unofficial on the box or not. But good is good and bad is bad.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm not consistent on that. I'm not consistent on that, because if it has a crappy solo mode and someone created one that makes it better, then it's a little different to me.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not consistent on that. Yeah, if somebody makes a solo that's better, but it's already a solo game, then I'm like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. The rules are cleaner, and Ark Nova would be one of those types.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get to Ark Nova later on. But I know what you're saying.
We'll get there.
The fact is, there are some games on this list where there is no official solo mode, and yet they are on this list. So the people who voted for these games on this list are clearly looking at the unofficial solo modes as well for things like Tyrants of the Underdark to be on there, because there is no official solo mode for that, just the one that Mike created.
Well, the people have spoken, right? So
it's the people's choice.
People have spoken. It's not my choice. I'm just one call, right?
Yeah, and this is not like a Caligula, like, oh, if the people had one neck, I would cut it. Like, no. This is a celebration of like solo gaming for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm looking over Paul's shoulder. Another one in the 100 to 200 that has not been there, I think, ever in the years that I've looked, is Hoplomachus has fallen to 150. But I think we can all agree that's
we
probably,
all know why.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because people are waiting for the next one, and then Victorum or remastered, or I can imagine Kevin just combining it all into one Hoplo monstrosity. I'm sure that'll be.
But should he? I don't think he should. I think Hoplomachus Victorum, which will be delivered to backers hopefully by the end of this year, or if not early next year, that is going to be in this list next year, and I don't think that should be merged with the other ones.
Well,
no matter how similar.
Then they'll just both be on my top.
Yeah.
But Paul, we mentioned this earlier. Kevin merges Runebound 2nd edition and 3rd edition into one game, which is at 111. So if he's doing that, certainly Hoplomachus, which is almost the same rule set, you know what I mean?
They can be combined.
But I think I hate when that's done though, because it's like it kind of does a disservice to both titles, because it's like, well, I prefer the solo only version. Well, but you may prefer the solo version of Hoplomachus Remastered because it has more options built into it. For not, and I also feel like sometimes the strength of a game is not just its solo only. So sometimes games get rated higher because it's like, man, not only is this game great, the solo mode is great too. So there's like some elevation to that as well.
Right.
Along with the people who primarily play a game as solo. So it's like Hoplomachus can win both, like Victorum can win, and so can Hoplomachus Remastered. So I think those two will be, versus like where the current state is, like, Hoplomachus Origins and Victorum,
Well, I can say that where I'm at right now, I'm gonna be putting those games on the list next year. I'm very happy with my experiences so far, to a point where I just don't like, how you play a game and you're like, well, I need to play this a few times to be sure maybe it's just the first blush of romance. Like, no. I'm ready. It's cuffing season and Hoplomachus is here.
Yeah. Hoplomachus Victorum is great.
But yeah, going through this list, looking at 101 to 200, ones on here which are jumping out to me as, I've played the solo modes of these games and they were good. There's quite a few Euro games on there. Lagrange's on there, Clans of Caledonia, Blackout Hong Kong.
Good to see Clans of Caledonia, man.
Yeah, I like that one.
Dark Horse, very good games. You know what, Mike? I'm surprised you like that game. But
again, I like it.
Very interesting solo mode. It's kind of thematic too.
No, well, that's the thing. I gotta be. I should specify. All the things I'm nodding and saying yup is for competitive play. I am very rarely want to play a solo Euro, except for the ones that do something really interesting. I feel like a lot of them are like, and I forget if Caledonia was one of these or not. But when it's like beat your own score, or sort of the Terzi style, like he has in the Gallerist and such, where it's like, here are some goals to achieve, and you did it, good job. Like none of those excite me in any way.
I actually did a solo playthrough on the channel 2 years ago, maybe, of Clans of Caledonia. I think my patron supporters voted on it, and I thought, okay, I like the game multiplayer, so let's try out the solo mode. And then the designer contacted me and said, don't use the solo mode we put in the box. We've worked on this much more involved one. Use this one instead. So I did. And it broke me. It absolutely broke me, because I need my solo modes, not just I need them to be manageable and not completely and utterly destroy my entire brain to work out what the opponent's going to do. And the new solo mode is more advanced and it probably is better. But for me, I did like a 2-hour live stream where I got a headache 15 minutes in and it just got worse and worse and worse. So I didn't have a great experience, and I would have preferred to play the simple, just do your thing and count up your points. That's what I want. I don't want this 5-step flow chart to decide what the AI does. It's very clever and it works really well. But yeah, that's a game where there is multiple official solo modes for it.
Yeah.
And I guess if we want to have this discussion real quick, I'll give you all 3 options. Tell me which one you fall into most for your solo.
All right.
Option 2.
And these are generally okay. Good, Paul.
I feel like this is like a personality quiz, like 17 games.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. No, I love it.
I love it.
You'll find out who will be your significant other in 5 years. Let's go.
Right.
These are for solo Euros specifically. I think these apply to solo Euros that are a competitive game and have a solo mode. Okay, so do you like option 1 is super streamlined, basically beat your own score. There's not really an opponent. It's just like things are happening, but you're basically just playing the game by yourself, like doing your things, building your engine. That's option 1. Option 2 is where you have an automa, where you have like an actual opponent that's playing against you. It doesn't have to be like flowchart craziness, but like they are also playing the game. Like, something like
flip a card.
Yeah, flip a card and they put their workers down
it.
here, or they like take spaces from you.
Yeah.
And then option 3 is totally new mode, like on Mars added. Like, okay, I'm not even playing the same game anymore. Now there's aliens attacking me.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is your favorite?
Can I just add another option?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
There is another option. There is an option. It's more like option 1, but with goals.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just
objective based.
Yeah, objective based or something like that. It's not just play the game and count your score.
It's a wonderful world. It's a wonderful world as beat your score, but it has objective baselines and different objectives based on the scenario you choose.
Yeah.
But you're also trying to beat a score, as well. So
I'll also say that I'm willing to compromise on how you win if the act of playing the game is super satisfying.
Yeah.
Like, It's a Wonderful World. The joy of It's a Wonderful World, I don't actually care how I score. I like doing the little conversions of like, I can make this to make that, and then I can turn this into that, and like I can have this massive turn where I made all this happen. Woo! Like that's that kind of slot machine feeling.
The destination, the journey on that. Mage Knight is a good example of that. Just the journey. Journey.
Although I will say definitely not 3. I usually will not prefer.
Oh, you don't like? Okay.
I like AI that is meaningful as opposed to just kind of blocking you. Like, so for example, I'm enjoying Hoplo because there are rules for how the enemy will attack you.
Engage, yeah.
And so being able to engage with an enemy meaningfully that's like not a person, I really, really like. But I also really don't mind beat your score, especially if there are objectives. Like I played Hadrian's Wall like 6 times yesterday.
Yeah, I know. It's hard not to stop playing that game. You got to put it away. Like it's hard to put that game down. I generally like the card flip and just do these 2 or 3 things.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty much consistent throughout my, my games that I love. Featured by Gloomhaven. So like it starts with Gloomhaven and everything goes downhill from there. So yeah, I thought to myself, like, what's the highest game in there? And it would be that one. So or I just like complete randomness, which is just chuck it and let it happen, that kind of stuff. Like, okay, I guess I like that complete randomness too. So randomness elements, but I generally know that I like the card flip, resolve 1 or 2 things and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I sort of hover between. I mean, I've no problem playing a beat your own score game, things like Feast for Odin or anything like that. I'm just going to play the game. There's no there's no opponent doing anything else. It's just me. I play the game, I do the stuff, and I love it. And I count it score at the end. No problem with that. I do like it when they add some extra objectives or goals just to give it a little bit of a twist. But I also don't mind the card flip. So the Lost Ruins of Arnak solo mode that I'm sure we'll talk about in another video is you flip the card over. What's the AI doing? It's doing that on the rightmost card. Done. There you go. And you just put the worker on the board and it's blocked that space. It kind of, it's not simulating, it's simulating another player taking the space that you might use. And that's it. That's the solo modes I want. And I've got to give credit to the solo designers that do these super complex involved. Oh, well, if it's Tuesday, then it will do this. Unless it's raining, unless there's 3 enemies in the spot, not 4, only 3. If there's 3, then it'll do this. Then it'll do this. Oh, right. Yeah. So it's going to use a smoke grenade because there's 3. Brilliant. And the amount of work and effort that's gone into designing that. And if you want an immersive experience where you are playing against literally an AI that is trying to, resemble a human player, brilliant. For me, no, thank you. I want to spend my mental energy deciding what I'm going to do and not having to run an AI. And the last time I think I played an AI mode, which was a really complex AI mode, somebody said, would you play it again? And I said, yes, I would play this mode again, but with another player who I invite round who runs the AI for me. And they went, well, why would you do that and not play 2-player? I went, exactly.
You sound like Fred Serval.
I like the opportunity. Like I feel like some of the games with the card flip and they're getting more thematic. So and they're also like so for like Arnak, you're setting a scene as well. So if you're doing the solo mode, so it's like, all right, this is happening and this, like in a campaign. So it's like they set that up, and I like that. It just gives me just enough to do it, or like just be in the theme of, I don't know, like, I mean, having, even if a flowchart's okay, like a Tertsy game, it just depends on how thematic it is. Otherwise, it kind of completely takes you out, and you're just worried about the tree.
Yeah.
Versus the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little weird in that I like going through like logic trees for some reason. So that helps me enjoy root and coin, just to name a few. Like for some reason, I like actually like I as silly as it is, I've played coin and root with like 4 non-player factions and no me. Like I'm not actually playing the game. I'm just like running it and seeing what happens, like a computer program. I know that's weird.
No, it's not weird. If it's weird, well, I guess I'm with you.
Okay.
It's all in. It's all in Sim. It's Sim.
But yeah, one thing that bugs me, and I think this goes back to like my video game playing. Like I'm thinking like back when I would play Civ 2, it might have been Civilization 2, and I would play on the higher difficulty settings, and the AI would cheat. And something about that would just really bug me. So like when I play Euro modes where they've streamlined it, I like the streamlining. I don't want it to take forever like usually, but where they've streamlined it and they have like, you know, a lot of solo modes, for example, to make it more simple, will have in a game where like you have a natural progression of what you get. They'll just level out the AI because it's easier, you know, so they'll get way too much stuff in the beginning, but they'll be behind the 8 ball at the end, which I get from a streamlining perspective. But when like they're doing stuff they just can't do, I don't know, for some reason, it just like rubs me the wrong way. And it's tougher for me to like really enjoy that AI because I'm like, well, you can't do that.
There are
why do you already have a tank? That's weird.
Games, right. I was gonna say there's games where they start with too many resources. Yeah. And there's also games that like they don't have to pay resources. So there's already an added pressure.
Oh my God.
And it feels like, hey, this is already a difficult game. And now here they are with no burden, you know, like, but it also sometimes makes it smoother. Yeah. So, you know, it basically prepares you for the engine that you can build. So therefore, I get the reason, but sometimes that is a turnoff. Like to people, they're like, "Wait, why do they have to pay for nothing?"
Well, and
they can randomly grab level 2s before, you know, so you can. So it's like
you thought games were fair,
right?
Like, you fool.
Okay. I think just to name a few, I think you got to be really careful with that paying for nothing thing specifically. Like I think Coin really has this issue with the newer solo, which I think is better in like every way. Pretty much except this, like the new Fire in the Lake one, the Gandhi one. In that they roll a die and they can theoretically do actions forever pretty much.
Yeah.
Now the converse was in the old version, they would run out of money and they'd be able to do nothing. So this is way better. But yeah, it's problematic sometimes. Like there's some sort of happy medium. Like I have a variant for Fire in the Lake where you just add a number to the die each time they roll it so they can't do it forever. Just like eventually shuts them down, which I think kind of models the same thing. But yeah, like I think streamlining can go a bridge too far and create a negative experience, at least for me. But anyway, we're getting way off topic.
there was one other one that we discussed just before we started, which is in the top 200, brand new, in at number 131, ISS Vanguard.
Yeah.
And I think we were all a bit surprised it's that high this quick because it's
I just don't think people have played it or they played like one planet. To be clear, I don't know about you, who's played it? I played it. I know you played it, Paul. Have you played it yet, Jeremy?
I am not.
I'm not.
All right, so for Paul, you can speak as well. For me, it would be my, I think it might be in my top 30 solo games already. But Paul, I think I might be one of the only people in the US that has a copy because they had to send it from Europe. I didn't get it like with the Kickstarter shipment.
That's why I'm surprised.
Yeah, who rated
that
this
high on the list? I mean, I'm really happy because I was professionally involved in this project and I put
and I think it's fabulous.
Put months of time into working on it.
Great job that you did.
Also, its highest score for somebody was 1. Somebody said this was their top solo game based on this spreadsheet of the year.
I wouldn't feel, I'm not quite done the campaign yet. I would not feel comfortable putting it at number 1 yet, but I like it a lot.
Oh man. All right. So kind of back to the list itself. All right. So if we were on a reality show, right? And like, you know how like the judges can like save one performance that they like really want to rescue and put it back up, like you make sure it stays in the list. Which one of these would you save or like bump up the list if you could?
Wait, so something in 100 to 200?
Yeah, something in 100 to 200. If you could put it back up in the top 100, what would it be?
So it doesn't have to be one that's been in the top 100, just anything on this list that I think should be higher.
Yes.
There's a few.
Choose your favorite child.
I'm gonna take a minute just to look down.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah,
Somebody else wants to go first.
Do you have yours?
I have one
Liz?
right
Oh,
away.
it's always so. I'm not worried about little baby Hoplo because I think it's going to go all the way back up to the top of the list next year. I'm not worried about that. If I could push any of these up and just make people play it, ooh, I think Pavlov's House has a chance of making it up there on its own because
I was thinking of that one.
I would rescue Thunderbolt Apache Leader because I freaking love Thunderbolt Apache Leader. Every year I have to talk about how much I love Thunderbolt Apache Leader and how all of y'all should play it. So I'm gonna plug it and just take my moment to do that because it's just so good. Like you get really attached to your little pilots. It's like a fun mix between planning between missions and like tactically flying around and blowing things up. And like I'm an idiot about all this stuff. Like I refer to the helicopters as planes all the time. Like I don't know anything about air warfare and it doesn't matter because the game is great. So I'm gonna plug it. That's my little 2 cents there.
I'm gonna plug I'm gonna go with Dwellings at Eldervale.
I was actually surprised that's not higher.
I'm very surprised that's not higher, but it is also a game that still is about access. It's a very expensive game for a Euro game, which I totally get that. Price is always a factor, especially for a Euro game, just for solo. And that was in that $150 to $200 range, so I get it. But for the people who do, it is one of the smoothest flow, chartish, I guess. Solo mode is not really, but it does have a flow to it. You're gonna have to pay attention. But I think that game, because of all the factions and all the content and the different ways you can play it against this ghost, I think it's called, or like a ghost or something like that. I've just found that game to be really smooth, and it represents the gameplay of the game, and you can just get to enjoying the game over and over and over again. Plus, if you get the premium, you can just have,
press the bass and have little
the bass. You can just play with
roar.
Anyway, I just love it. It's such a toy. It's such a toy that way. But talk about Kickstarter blow. Like, no, actually, that's just the 5-year-old in all of us. So yeah, I definitely think that game is just such a strong game, and I'm probably looking at all these other games and thinking like that's a strong game plus it's a great solo game. And I'm surprised to not see it that high because that's what it is to me.
Go ahead.
You go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Well, I just saw mine because it's literally one above Dwellings of Eldervale. Paleo, it is going up. It's at 137. It looks like it was in like the 160s last year, 170s. So it might make it anyway. But I know there's been some access issues with this one. Like some of the people on our Discord in like some of the East European countries and stuff can't find a copy at all. The expansion that was in Europe for a long time, like last year, just is available in the US now.
Yeah.
But Paleo is one of my top games of like all time these days. I love that one. And two-handed solo, I do want to be clear, two-handed solo, not the official solo. I think the official solo is kind of crummy, but two-handed solo is genius for that. And I love the new expansion. I play with my family too, so it's hard to fully separate solo from multiplayer for this one.
It's again,
but
strong.
I mean, I definitely just drop it down and play solo all the dang time. Like I bought the expansion and just made a video for it. I was like, I don't think anybody's even going to care that much when they watch this. This is mainly for me. I want to play this. I might as well record it while I do. So I love that one.
Nice. I've got a few. I'm gonna break the rules slightly. I mean, I agree with Liz on Pavlov's House. I think Pavlov's House should be in the top 100 because Pavlov's House is a solo game and it's not really multiplayer. But and we've mentioned Snowdonia as well. That's a great solo mode for Snowdonia. But I've got two next to each other. I've got Newton and Australia.
Oh wow!
Both games that I enjoy. Both games that I've played solo. Both games that I enjoy solo modes of. So yeah,
I got to push
Newton. You can't. If I was to do a top 10 games that I have in my collection that are the most driest, beigest, brownest, no theme, Newton might even be number one.
Euro the Euro game.
I mean, Newton is literally just
Euro the Euro.
Spend X resource to get this icon and that icon. Let's give them a thematic name, but literally it's just totally abstract. And it's a great game. I love it.
So I have to put this game in the 100. It is. This game.
Should I pick a second game? What's going on here?
Do
rules mean nothing?
I know. Paul broke it. I'm breaking it. I don't know. I'm trying. I'm riding with the wave. I'm breaking it. I can't shut up for too long anyway. So
Is it Pandemic
Shadows of
Legacy
Brimstone?
Season 1?
Yes.
Shadows of Brimstone is like, it's actually now this is a price one, and it's like a hobby. I call it a hobby breaker because you got to put minis together. It's a hobby breaker for some people. It's like, hey, welcome to assembling minis.
Yeah.
It's either that or Kingdom Death Monster, right? It's like, hey, this game's great, and then they're like, wait, I got to put this together. Yeah, because they were cheap. Anyway, so Shadows of Brimstone, I think, is the perfect dice chucker. It's one of the first dice chuckers if you just want to play chuck it and go at it. That's one of those types of games, and it's highly thematic, and I cannot believe that's not in the top 100. Like, I just cannot believe it. It's such a highly regarded game. I have no idea. I mean, maybe it's just time. Time has been unkind to it, but it went up 43 spots, so that means something. And that probably could just do it with it being in print. I mean, it's constantly like not in print, and they have a new revised edition, which people want more, and it's harder to get because I had just bought it again. It was harder to get for a good price. And I cannot believe that game. It's like right in the middle too. It's a 150. So.
Yeah, it's 153, but it went up 43 places from last year. So maybe
places. So something.
I've heard good things about it. I've heard, it is just a dice chucker and kind of things, but I have heard good things.
So is Massive Darkness too. But hey, one's more beautiful than the other. So
yeah.
That said, I'm about to ask you for final thoughts on this set so that we can go on to higher numbers. But I want to say that my takeaway from this video, honestly, is that, and like this could be true every year, but there are so many gems in this part of the list, and also amazing games that didn't make the list at all. Like the People's Choice Top 200 is a fun list to talk about, but it is by no means like the last word on whether something's worth playing. Don't look at anything on this list and be like, it's 158. It's not good enough. Like, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Like,
the list is not an average of the rankings. The list is like, in a way, a popularity contest of how many people have played it.
Right.
Because there are things on here that like maybe only 5 people picked it, but those are the 5 people who have played it a lot, and it's their number one solo game. Here's
a good example. Mistfall is a game no one talks about, but there are people apparently out there talking about it that want people to know about it because and you can find Mistfall for dirt cheap. I mean, you could probably find it for super cheap.
Yep.
Yeah. Aventuria, which probably is higher rated as a game, harder to find. People can't get their hands on it, so they don't know about it. Whereas like Mistfall is probably readily available. And like all these solo games that are higher are probably readily available. So like people have played them and they're gotten rid of them. People are trying to get rid of their big box collection of them. So it's like take advantage of it. If you're like remotely even interested, you probably can get a bundle of Mistfall stuff for like under $100, and you would have just as much as a campaign game as any other game, right? So I'm glad that like when we talk about these big ones, it's like, no, these are good, and then there's small cheap ones as well. So like Sylveon is a cheaper game, so it's like you don't also have to bid all these big boxes. So
I saw on the list Lux Eterna by Tony Boydell, same designer as Snowdonia. Lux Eterna is a small like $15 game in a tiny little box, and it is just a solo card game only that takes about 15 minutes to play. So not all of the ones on this list are massive boxes with campaigns like ISS Vanguard, for example. There's a good variety on here.
Paper Tales, man. Paper Tales. Oh my god. Yeah.
I played that once multiplayer and I was like, never again.
No, the solo mode is very good.
Really?
Very, very good. They actually this expansion is literally a solo mode content. And there's a little bit of randomness in there that might kill it for some people, but it's really good and it's got enough content in there. But as I say, there is some randomness in there that could turn people off. That's like one of those overpowered things that we kind of just talked about. It's got a little bit of the overpowerness in it. But by the way, just so you know, if you are interested in Paper Towels and you do a little research, you're like, no, this actually seems like it's kind of for me. They have a big box that's coming out soon, and I think it may have another expansion in it that has some more solo content in it. So they're coming out with a Paper Tales big box. I just saw that when I was at Essen. I was like, okay, yes. And so I just saw
beautiful. Yes. And so I mean, this is why, right, this list is worth looking at in its entirety, because there's a gem in there for really anyone who's interested in playing a solo game.
And people can get hold of this list then. You're saying that this list will be published?
Yes, yeah. So basically these videos, so those of you who are out there, we're recording this. So part of the list is already run. But this video is going to be published when we hit 100, and then the next 2 videos we publish like along with the reveals of the bottom 50 and the top 50. So yes, this is out here. The spreadsheet I think eventually gets released to everybody, and there's just a treasure trove here for all of us solo gamers. All right, any last thoughts before we shut this particular part of the discussion down?
Why Seven Wonders Duel in there as a solo game? Have I missed something? Is there a solo mode for Seven Wonders Duel?
It's a very popular one. So
I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, well,
maybe there is one.
There is,
maybe there is.
Very popular one.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
By the way, it dropped 28, so it is very popular. So, yeah.
Oh man. All right, so for those of you who are out there, please feel free to like, comment, ask us questions. We love talking about these solo games. I'm sure we'll all be kind of on here like seeing what y'all thought too. Thank you so much for watching, and most of all, happy gaming.